Not every migration story ends up in success. Some end up in silent shame and a flight back home. Hello, how are you doing? Barnabas here. I hope you're doing well. Today I want to tell you a story of Joe, a young man from Nakuru, Kenya. Before we continue, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Turn the bell on, please. I'm waiting for you. Have you done that? All right, let's go. Fresh from high school, very smart boy, hopeful, but completely unprepared. This is not to scare you, but to prepare you. Welcome to day 7 of this 30-day series, Before You Fly. This is a series that is aimed at exploring the truths about migrating to the diaspora or places like Australia. So far, we've talked about planning, what to expect, the types of visas, but today I want to take a new turn and tell you a real story. A story of potential and pain. A story of Joe and what happens when a dream is not backed up by proper preparation and resilience. Joe was only 20 years old, I would say fresh from high school. And after staying home for about 1 year, he convinced his parents that he would want to go and study in Australia. He got accepted into a bachelor's degree program in IT here in Melbourne. For Joe and his family, this was a prayer answered, a breakthrough they have been praying for. But there was a big problem. They didn't have the funds. So what the family did is they looked for a bank loan and they gave the family land and some property as collateral because they really believed in Joe, that Joe would go to Australia, study, graduate, also be able to work and pay back the loan and as well as support his family. Everyone was counting on him. So the day came and Joe landed in Melbourne, Australia, full of energy, excited, and a bit overwhelmed. Everything was new. But Joe knew that he would work hard and be able to support and lift his family. But then soon the reality kicked in. Joe was struggling to get a job. There were a few factors that were against Joe. One, he didn't have local work experience. Secondly, he was not a very good communicator. And thirdly, he was a young man. And then he realized that rent was so high, even though it was shared accommodation. He shared tiny rooms with strangers, something that Joe was not used to. And the uni studies, deadlines, the expectations, school group works, and all this is something that Joe was not used to. It was nothing like high school. The pressure started building up for Joe. By the 6th month, Joe had run out of savings and his casual work couldn't pay school fees and his upkeep. And when Joe called back home to get more financial support, his parents could not understand. This is the person that had sold everything, took a huge loan and sent to Australia to support them. And now he's asking for more support. They couldn't understand. And the parents even reminded Joe that the bank had started calling, demanding for repayment of that loan. And then so Joe decided, I will never call back home. For Joe, everything was now overwhelming. Not just the pressure from the university administration because Joe had started missing classes, the pressure from his work, was now not able to pay his rent, his upkeep, accommodation, leave alone the demand back home to pay the bank loan and also to support his family. Now Joe was getting into panic mode. But instead of sharing this burden with focused friends or seeking help from community leadership, Joe turned to the wrong crowd. He started drinking, sleeping in, missing classes. He withdrew himself from people. He started skipping work. Despite the effort of some genuine friends to get Joe out of this problem, they tried talking to him, they tried visiting him and trying to find out the best way to help him. But Joe was going down and down on this trend. And Joe stopped working completely and didn't want also to attend any classes. But by this time it was too late. His visa was cancelled. Joe had no legal grounds to stay any further in Australia. And so he got deported back to Nairobi, Kenya. And none of his family knew that he was coming back. And so no one welcomed him at the airport. It was very silent, very quiet, very shameful landing back in Nairobi without even one family member ready to welcome Joe. He spent at a friend's house in Nairobi and the following day took a bus back to Nakuru to his family. Joe was back, although in big shame, but Joe was alive. He felt like a big failure. He felt like he'd let his family down because now they had a loan to pay and the expectation that they had for the family shattered. This happened to Joe, but it could happen to anybody. It could happen to you. I feel like this happened to Joe not because he wasn't smart, he was smart, but maybe he was not prepared. Maybe Joe didn't think too much about what is expected on the other side. Maybe no one had talked to him seriously about what is expected of an international student here in Australia. The schoolwork, the work, the fees, what is expected of you in terms of the conditions of the visa, expectations from people back home. I wish somebody had explained to him the expectation. But maybe he was young, 19, 20-year-old, just fresh from high school. He had not experienced life and maybe he had not built resilience. Being an international student here in Australia requires that you prepare mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially. And if you're not prepared, you can be crushed. So if you're preparing to come to Australia as an international student, please don't be like Joe. Prepare yourself well, all right? Get wise counsel. Plan, all right? Get a budget. Plan yourself. Plan your finances. And also, if you get in trouble, please don't isolate yourself. Get help from focused friends. You can also get some help from the leadership in the community or the church. Moving to the diaspora as an international student is not for the weak. You need a lot of resilience. Hey friends, we are starting week 2 tomorrow in this series Before You Fly, and we'll be talking about practical things, housing, finances, and things like this. You can't afford to miss. And so please invite friends, invite family members, share these videos, like them, and more so please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on TikTok, Facebook, and other social media platforms. All right? Till next time, this is Barnabas, the son of encouragement. Bye-bye and God bless you.